She thought I'd never find out. I sent 14 binders to her family, friends, and boss, then disappeared on Christmas Eve. My name's Ryan. I'm 45 years old. For more than half my life, I thought I'd already written my forever story. Her name was Sue. We met when we were 17, two teenagers who believed in forever. We got married 5 years later, right after college. We built a house, raised 2 boys, laughed, fought, dreamed. I thought she was my home. I never even looked at another woman. For 23 years, we had our ups and downs. Money stress, work stress, the usual fights about laundry or dinner or who forgot the milk. But we always found a way back. At least that's what I thought. 2 years before everything fell apart, I had knee surgery, reconstructive, the kind that leaves you limping and stuck at home for months. I was on workers' comp, half immobile, angry at my own body. Couldn't climb ladders, couldn't mow the lawn, couldn't even kneel to tie a shoe without pain. Our house slowed down with me. My sons helped when they could, but Sue carried the rest. And she didn't like carrying it. The intimacy between us started fading. Before my injury, we'd already cooled off. After surgery, it froze. She was patient at first, but I saw it in her eyes, resentment, maybe boredom. She started staying late at work. Drinks with coworkers, she'd say. At first, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? For 2 decades, she'd never given me a reason to doubt. Between November and March, she was out almost every night. Different stories, same excuse. I stayed home with ice packs and pain meds, trying not to let my mind wander. Then one night, she came home smelling like cologne I didn't wear. I told myself it was probably from a hug or a crowded bar. I was wrong. By January, she felt different, colder, distant. When I'd reach for her, she'd flinch. Her phone never left her hand. She used to show me memes, DIY stuff, recipes. Now she tilted the screen away when I walked by. She said it was just work messages. Maybe it was, for a while. Then the pandemic hit. Lockdown. New York City went silent. We were both essential, so we still had to go in. I had just been cleared to work again. I was ready to feel useful. She said she had to start doing extra hours every day. She'd come home late, head straight to the shower, and crawl into bed without a word. I tried to start things up again, romantically. But she was gone mentally. Her body was there, her heart wasn't. That's when it finally hit me. Something's wrong. 2 weeks later, I couldn't shake the feeling. I started Googling signs of infidelity. You know that pit in your stomach when every box gets checked? Secretive phone. New schedule. Emotional distance, defensiveness, every one of them. I checked her social media. Her Facebook was full of photos from work nights out. Most looked normal, group shots, drinks, smiles. But one man kept showing up. Same guy, always close to her. Arm around her shoulder, hand on her lower back. Too close for a married woman. He looked maybe late 20s. I'd never met him. But when I clicked his profile, it was gone. Blocked. He had me blocked. That hit like a hammer. Why would some guy from her office block me? Unless he had a reason. That night, I stared at the ceiling till 3 a.m. The next morning, I turned into a detective. Batman mode, I called it. We had a family phone plan. I pulled up call logs and text history. Her most frequent number's mine, and one I didn't recognize. Guess who it belonged to? The same guy from the photos I wanted to throw up. Months of messages. Hundreds of calls. Mostly short but frequent. Some after midnight. She'd deleted all the texts from her phone, but the usage data didn't lie. I told my best friend Oz. He asked if I'd confront her. I said no, not yet. I didn't want suspicion, I wanted proof. He told me about an app. It could sync text data in real time. I installed it quietly and waited. 3 days later, I saw it. A message thread between her and him. Talking about the amazing night they'd had. Making plans for the weekend. Flirty, explicit, disgusting. That's the moment my marriage died. For 2 days, I barely spoke. She noticed. Asked if I was okay. I nodded, walked away. I couldn't even look at her. 23 years erased by a string of texts. 3 days later, the sadness burned out. Anger took its place. I didn't want to yell. I wanted justice. Oz called it revenge. I called it balance. I read somewhere that the enemy of infidelity is unpredictability. That stuck. If she wanted to live in chaos, I'd give her chaos, so I built a plan. Step 1, collect every piece of evidence. Step 2, act normal. Step 3, make her doubt everything. Step 4, disappear. While I gathered proof, I watched her live her lie. She smiled at me, cooked dinner, texted him under the table. I kept receipts. Every chat, photo, timestamp. I stored it all on a private drive, then I changed. Started going out randomly, coming home later than her. Kept my phone face down. When she asked, I said, just stuff. I saw the confusion start to grow. In June, paranoia bloomed. She'd text me from work. When are you coming home? Who were you with? She'd lost her calm. I hadn't raised my voice once. Through my spy app, I saw her venting to him. She told him I was different, that she felt like I was pulling away. He asked if she thought I was cheating. She said, maybe. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. Every night I drank with Oz or Joey, another old friend. We'd watch fights, throw darts, joke about my mission. It kept me sane. By October, she was unraveling. I hadn't touched her in months. She finally broke and called me at work. Can you come home early? We need to talk. I thought maybe she'd confess. She didn't. She asked if I was unhappy. Said she missed me. Then she looked me straight in the eye and asked, are you cheating on me? I laughed. Laughed so hard I fell on the floor. She stared, confused. I couldn't stop. It wasn't funny, but it was. The woman who betrayed me accusing me of the same thing. Pure irony. When I finally calmed down, I just said, no. Then I kissed her forehead and walked away. That night, I checked the app. She texted him again. He laughed in my face. He doesn't care anymore. She wrote, I know this is karma. Reading that made me smile for the first time in months, but my plan wasn't done. Next month, I met a lawyer, gathered every financial document, moved money into my own account. New bank, new email, new phone number, no trace. By November, I was ready for phase 2. My friend Nina returned from Europe. Sue always hated her, thought she was competition. Nina knew the whole story and offered to help. We took photos together at a party. Friendly, maybe too friendly. I posted them. Within days, Sue saw them. She blew up. Said I looked too handsy. I asked, you mean like you and Dave? First time I ever said his name. She froze. She tried to explain the pictures, saying he was just friendly. I told her, it's not the pictures that hurt, it's the year you spent lying. Her eyes went wide, but I walked away. From then on, she was clingy, too nice, too sweet, desperate. Meanwhile, I was collecting the last of the evidence. Hundreds of pages, screenshots, emails, timestamps. I printed them, labeled them, organized by month. 14 binders, and that, right there, is where everything started to turn. By December, the binders were stacked in neat rows across my office floor. 14 thick books of betrayal, each page proof, each photo a memory turned sour. I didn't even cry anymore. I just stared at them. Years of love cataloged like evidence in a case. I started making copies. One for me. One for my lawyer. One for every person who deserved to know the truth. Her parents. Her sisters. Her brother, her boss. Her friends. Even Dave's family, I wrapped them like gifts. Brown paper. Neat handwriting. Merry Christmas. While I worked, Sue hovered around the house. Trying to talk. Trying to touch me. I gave her nothing. Just polite smiles. She thought we were healing. I was already gone. I moved my important stuff to storage. A few boxes at a time. When she was at work, Oz would swing by. He'd load his car, drive it to my new apartment. Bit by bit, my life disappeared from that house. She didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't want to. Thanksgiving came. Our oldest and his girlfriend hosted. We all pretended to be happy, laughed, ate. I even kissed Sue on the cheek once. Her eyes lit up like she'd been forgiven. But it was just an act. I couldn't let my kids suspect anything yet. That night, she thanked me for being kind, said she could feel us again. I smiled. Told her, I just need time. Inside, I felt nothing. Later, when we were alone, she reached for me. We hadn't been together in months. I gave in, not out of love, but closure. When I was done, I showered and slept in the office. She looked confused, maybe hurt. She didn't know it was goodbye. The next morning, I checked the app. She'd messaged Dave. He'd written her a full novel about love and destiny. She told him she couldn't keep seeing him. That guilt was killing her. That she still loved me. Too late. He begged for one last meeting. She said yes. Of course she did. Old habits die hard. I didn't care anymore. Let them have their goodbye. I already had mine. A week later, I sat down with my boys. I told them everything. Not the dirty details, just the truth. That their mom had betrayed me. That we were divorcing. My youngest cried. He'd just been cheated on himself. Life's cruel timing. My oldest took it calmly, said he'd take his brother in for a while. I thanked him. I told them both I'd be okay. And for the first time, I believed it. Mid-December, the binders were done. 14 of them, packed, labeled. I took them to the post office, each addressed to someone in her world. Delivery dates, December 22nd to 24. Perfect timing. Christmas Eve arrived. She came home late again. I didn't ask where she'd been. We ate, watched a movie. She fell asleep on the couch. I looked at her one last time. 23 years condensed into a sigh. I placed a binder on the bed. Taped my lawyer's card inside. Wrote 2 words on a note. Merry Christmas. Then I packed my backpack, took my phone, and walked out. No noise, no drama. Just gone. That night, snow fell over the city. I drove to my new apartment and sat in silence. For the first time in months, I felt peace. The next morning, chaos erupted. Messages from friends poured in. Apparently, the packages had landed. Her family, her co-workers, her HR department, all reading the truth, every ugly word. Her world collapsed in hours. Her parents disowned her. Her sisters turned on her. Her job put her and Dave on administrative leave. By the end of the week, both were fired. I watched from a distance. She posted vague quotes about regret and forgiveness. People commented with anger, shock, pity. She tried to reach me. Old number blocked, emails bounced. I was a ghost. I didn't feel proud. I felt clean. Justice doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's silence. A week later, Oz called. Dude, you really did it. Yeah, I did. And I'd do it again. I left her everything that didn't matter. The house. The furniture. The memories. I took my dignity and walked away. I didn't tell anyone where I'd gone except a few friends and my lawyer. I wanted the silence to speak for me. The binders did the talking. Sue called my mother. My mom didn't hold back. Told her she'd ruined everything. Told her I'd been a good husband. Told her to never call again. Her father tried too. He sounded broken. Said he didn't raise her like this. I said I loved him but couldn't stay in touch. Too many ghosts. Sue started losing friends. The ones who defended her dropped off. The ones who knew me called to apologize. I didn't need it. I just wanted quiet. 1 week later, a friend from her office texted me. Said both Sue and Dave were officially fired. Violation of company conduct, the letter said. They'd broken the no fraternization rule. She'd lost her income, her reputation, her partner in crime. I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't sad either. It was balance. The only thing that still stung was the time. 23 years. Half my life. Gone because she couldn't be honest. At night, I'd sit in the new apartment. Small, quiet, half empty. I'd drink a beer and stare at the city lights. Sometimes I'd laugh. Sometimes I'd feel nothing. Oz kept checking on me. Nina, too. She'd text simple things. Eat something. Sleep. It helped. Christmas passed. Then New Year's. No contact. No apology that could fix anything. Then late January, one of Sue's friends called. Said she'd tried to reach me. Said she'd been in the hospital. An overdose attempt. She'd survived. People told me to go see her. Said I should forgive her. I didn't. I couldn't. You can't rebuild trust on ashes. I told my sons what happened. Said if they wanted to visit her, I wouldn't stop them. She's still their mother. But she's not my problem anymore. I slept that night without guilt. Because forgiveness and forgetting aren't the same thing. 2 months later. The divorce process started. My lawyer was calm, professional. Told me the evidence spoke for itself. In New York, fault matters. Her affair sealed it. I offered fair terms. She could keep the house, keep her car. I wanted my cabin upstate and my peace of mind. We met at the lawyer's office. She looked tired, older, eyes swollen from crying. She said she was sorry. Said she didn't mean for it to go that far. Said she thought I didn't love her anymore. I told her she stopped loving me first. Told her I gave her half my life. Told her I'd already said goodbye. Then I walked out. On the sidewalk, she called after me. People stared. I kept walking. Put on my earbuds. Music drowned the noise. When I reached the corner, I turned once. She was standing there, crying, arms hanging by her sides. And I felt nothing. 2 weeks later, her dad called. He apologized again. Said he was ashamed of her. Said I'd always be family. I thanked him, then told him it was time to let go. That night, I finally changed my Facebook status to divorced. Not legally final yet, but emotionally, yes. Messages flooded in. Some cheering me on, some shocked, some asking what happened. I just said, long story. I'm free now. Nina came over. We drank coffee and watched the snow fall. She put her head on my shoulder. Didn't say anything. Didn't have to, it was quiet again. And for the first time in a long time, the quiet felt good. When the divorce papers finally arrived, I didn't cry. I laughed. Not from joy, but relief. It was over. I looked around my apartment, small, messy, alive. I had my sons, my friends, my freedom. Sue had her choices. Dave had his consequences. And I had my peace. I caught my wife cheating. I mailed the proof. Then I vanished. And honestly, that silence was the loudest revenge of all. The divorce was final on April 13th. Almost a year since the first night I suspected her. A year of lies, proof, and silence. And finally, freedom. My lawyer called me that morning. Said, "Congratulations, it's done." I thanked him. When I hung up, I didn't cheer. I just sat there, hands shaking. Because after 23 years, there was no more us, only me. That evening, I opened a beer and watched the city from my balcony. All those lights, all those people with stories I'd never know, and mine finally felt finished. Sue and I hadn't spoken in months. Everything went through lawyers. I'd agreed to temporary support, $653 a month. Small price for peace. No spousal support after 1 year. She could have the house, the memories, the ghosts. I didn't want them. I called my older son, told him it was official. He asked, "How do you feel?" I said, "Light." He said, "Good, you deserve that." Then he put his brother on the line. My younger boy talked for almost an hour. He was still healing, still angry at her. But he said therapy was helping. That made me proud. After the call, I cried for the first time in months. Not from pain, from relief. Later that night, Nina came over. She didn't knock, just walked in like always. She saw the papers on the table. She didn't say congrats. She just hugged me, tight. No words, just warmth. We talked until midnight. About everything. The boys, work, the future. Then she kissed me. And for once, it didn't feel wrong. It felt like life starting again. I know what people will think. Too soon, too fast. But grief has its own clock. Mine had already run out. 2 weeks later, I started going outside more. Gym, coffee shops, long walks. No fear of bumping into her. She'd moved to stay with her sister for a while. Probably too ashamed to be seen. One afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then curiosity won. It was Dave. Yes, that Dave. The man who blew up my marriage. The man who called her baby while I limped around the house. His message was long, apologetic. He said he'd seen my story online. That he knew it was about him. That he wanted to say sorry. He told me his side. Said he thought our marriage was cold. That Sue told him I didn't love her. That she said we were basically separated. He believed her. And by the time he realized she was lying, it was too late. He lost everything, too. His job, his apartment, even his parents. His mom kicked him out after reading the binder. He was sleeping on a friend's couch. Said he deserved it. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes. Then I typed, "Actions have consequences. I hope you learn from yours." Then I blocked him. That was the last time I ever heard his name. 1 month later. Spring came early. The city felt alive again. I'd started running, slowly, carefully. My knee still stiff, but it held up. Every step felt like reclaiming something. Oz kept saying I looked different. Like a guy who finally exhaled. He wasn't wrong. Sue was still jobless. Still quiet. Her family stopped talking to me, which I expected. They needed to close ranks around her. That's fine. I didn't need explanations. My youngest started spending weekends with me. We'd play games, cook, talk about college. He smiled again. That was enough. Nina was around more often. We didn't put a label on it. Didn't need to. She was steady, simple, kind. She made me laugh again. That was enough too. 3 months later, I finally took a trip to my cabin. First time in years. The drive was quiet. The trees still bare from winter. But when I reached the top of the hill and saw that old wooden porch, I felt something loosen inside me. I opened the door, dusted off the counter, and sat in the silence. No phone buzzing. No tension. Just birds and wind. I thought about Sue, not with anger anymore. Just clarity. She made her choices. And so did I. I burned the last spare binder in the fire pit behind the cabin, watched the pages curl and turn to ash. Years of pain turned into smoke. It felt right. When I got home, Nina was waiting with pizza. She asked, "How was it?" I said, "Quiet." She smiled. "That's the best sound, isn't it?" "Yeah, it is." A few weeks after the trip, I got an email from the lawyer. Final documents stamped and sealed. No loose ends. No appeals. Just done. I stared at the paper for a long time. Then I laughed. A quiet, tired laugh. Like someone who'd just crossed a finish line after a marathon he never signed up for. I sent a copy to my records folder and closed the laptop. I didn't need to look at it again. 2 days later, my phone buzzed again. Private number. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. It was Sue's dad. He sounded older, worn out. He said, "Ryan, I just wanted to tell you. You did right by her for a long time." I thanked him. He said, "She's trying to find a job. She's in therapy." I said, "Good. She needs it." Then there was silence. He finally said, "Take care of yourself, son," and hung up. I sat there for a while after that call. No anger, no tears. Just quiet acceptance. Life started feeling normal again. Work, coffee, gym, dinner with Nina, calls with my kids. Routine felt like healing. I never posted about Sue again. Never mentioned her online. People still ask sometimes. I just say, that chapter's closed. And it was. Nina became more than a friend. Slowly. We didn't rush it. She'd known me since high school, long before the mess. When we sat together, it felt familiar, safe. Not fireworks, warmth. One night I told her everything I'd never said out loud. How the silence after discovery was the worst part. How I hated feeling numb. How revenge didn't make me happy. It just stopped the pain. She listened, eyes soft. Then she said, "Sometimes peace looks like nothing. That's still peace." She was right. Summer 2021. I went with my sons to the lake near the cabin. First family trip without her. It felt strange at first, but halfway through the day we were laughing again. Like old times. Like the weight had finally lifted. My oldest said, "Dad, you seem lighter." I said, "That's because I stopped carrying someone else's mistakes." They both nodded. We didn't need to talk about her anymore. After they left, I sat by the water till sunset. The sky burned orange, fading to blue, and I realized I wasn't angry anymore, not even a little, that night. When I got home, I found an envelope slipped under my door. No return address. Inside was a short note in familiar handwriting. It just said, "I'm sorry. Sue." No explanations, no plea. Just 2 words. I folded it once and put it in a drawer. Didn't burn it. Didn't reply. Some ghosts don't need an ending. Nina came by the next morning. She noticed the envelope but didn't ask. We had coffee on the balcony. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah. For the first time, I really am." Work picked up. My knee healed better than expected. I started mentoring new guys at the job, helping them avoid the mistakes I made, at work and in life. Every few weeks, I'd get a text from my sons. Pictures of their new apartments, their friends, their lives. It made me proud, because even if the marriage broke, the family didn't. Nina and I started talking about moving in together. We didn't rush. We'd both lived enough to know love isn't about speed, it's about peace. And peace takes time, winter 2021. It had been a full year since I walked out that Christmas Eve. A whole year since the night I left the binder on the bed. I celebrated alone with a small fire and a bottle of bourbon. To closure, to peace. To starting again, I didn't toast to revenge. Revenge already happened. It didn't fix anything. It just cleared the path. People online still wrote about the guy who mailed the binders. Stories travel fast. Some called me a hero. Some called me cruel. I didn't care. None of them lived it. I didn't do it for applause. I did it because I needed to breathe. That night, I went to sleep early. 1 year after the divorce, I drove back to the old neighborhood. Not to see her. Just to see the house. It looked smaller, quieter. No cars in the driveway. I didn't get out. Just sat there for a minute, remembering who I used to be. Then I drove away. Didn't even look back. On the way home, I passed the diner where Sue and I used to go after Sunday church. It was closed down now. For some reason, that hit harder than the house. Because it reminded me that everything changes, even things that feel permanent. That night, I wrote a short note in my journal. Not a rant. Just words I needed to say out loud to myself. You can love someone your whole life and still have to let them go. You can do everything right and still lose. Sometimes peace looks like loneliness, but it's still peace. I closed the book and slept without dreams. 2 months later, my youngest graduated high school. He asked if I wanted Sue to come. I said, if you want her there, it's okay. She came. She sat 3 rows back. We didn't speak. But when our eyes met, she gave a small nod. It wasn't forgiveness. It was acceptance. After the ceremony, she walked up quietly. Said, "You look good, Ryan." I said, "You too." That was it. No tears, no drama. Just 2 people who used to love each other standing in the same sun. She left early. I stayed, took photos with my son, hugged him tight. He said, "I'm proud of you, Dad." And I realized that meant more than any vow ever had. That summer, Nina and I finally moved in together. Small apartment, plants on the balcony, a cat she named Whiskey. It felt like home in a way I hadn't felt in years. Simple, peaceful. Sometimes at night, I'd catch her reading on the couch. Soft light, quiet music, and I'd think, this is what it should have felt like all along. No secrets, no phones turned face down. Just trust. One evening, she asked, "Do you ever think about her?" I said, "Sometimes, but not the way I used to." She nodded. Didn't need more than that. End of 2022. I got a letter in the mail from Sue's sister. Just one line inside. "Thank you for not destroying her completely." I didn't know what to feel about that. Maybe I did destroy her life, but she destroyed ours first. I didn't reply. Just put the note away. Early 2023. Life turned normal again. I got promoted at work. My kids were grown, happy. Nina and I took weekend trips to the lake. Sometimes I'd see couples arguing in parking lots, and I'd silently hope they'd fix it before it broke. Because once trust is gone, nothing brings it back. One night by the fire, Nina said, "Do you regret it?" I thought about it. The binders, the revenge, the silence. I said no, but I regret having to become someone who could do it. She squeezed my hand. Didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Now, it's been years since I left that house. Sue's name doesn't hurt anymore. She's just a part of my past. Like a chapter you don't reread, but you don't tear out either. People still ask about the binder story. Some think I'm proud of it. I'm not. It's not about pride. It's about survival. I loved her once. That's true. But love without honesty is just habit. And I broke mine. If you've ever been betrayed, you know the silence after truth is the loudest sound in the world. But eventually that silence turns into peace. You stop asking why. You start breathing again. I caught my wife cheating. I mailed the proof. Then I vanished. And somehow that's how I finally found myself again. I mailed the proof, vanished, and finally found peace. But tell me, if you were me, would you have walked away quietly or watched her world burn first?